You're listening to Ideal Practice, episode number 26. Would you believe me if I told you that I know someone who tripled her rates and her clients actually thanked her for it? Yeah, I know it sounds kind of crazy, but that is actually a true story. And I'm going to tell you that story in a minute because today we're going to talk about how to raise your rates. And y'all, if you follow what I teach you today, there's a really good chance that you can do this without losing any clients. Lots of good stuff in store for you today. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Wendy Reeves, and with over 2 decades of experience in the private practice world, I've built my 6-figure business while learning a lot of lessons the hard way. This is the first podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of energy, alignment, and strategy to build a practice that is profit-centered, but people-forward. This is the Ideal Practice Podcast. Hey guys, this is Wendy. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. It's been a quiet week here in Lake Wobegon. No, actually, it's been a quiet week here in East Tennessee, though there have been a few exciting developments on the client front. If you listened to last week's episode, then you know that I am a big believer in celebrations. I think when you have a win in your business, you need to see it and own it and celebrate it. I do that myself, and I really love it when I can do that with my clients or for my clients. So this week, I have to tell you that one of the highlights of the week was when I got a voice text on Voxer from one of my clients, a therapist who uses EMDR, among other things, to work with couples and individuals around how to develop healthier relationships all the way around. She does really good work, and she already has pretty healthy rates for her service, which I love. But this week, she sold her first package, which meant she collected a payment that was somewhere north of $1,000 for the first time ever. And I don't care how many times I hear that story or see that happen with my people, I never get tired of it because there's always so much excitement and a little bit of like, wow, can you believe this actually worked? Yeah, I can. And as a coach, I have to tell you, it really, really makes me happy when that happens. If you don't have packages in your work, whatever kind of service you offer, I really encourage you to think about doing that. And if you need some help kind of thinking about, well, how would I do that? What would that look like? What would I include? How would I price that? How do I even talk about that? There's a pretty good chance I can help you figure all that out. One thing you might want to do is just go to my website over at wendypittsreeves.com, wendypittsreeves.com, and look for the Start Here button at the top of the page. Click on that and read about a quick start consult because that's one very easy, specific, accessible way that I can help you figure out how to do this. And who knows? Maybe packages could help your clients get better access to your services and help you too. All right, go to wendypittsreeves.com and click on the Start Here button to learn more about that. All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about raising your rates. And I want to talk about this because I see so many of my clients and colleagues who actually undercharge for their services, sometimes more than they even realize. Now, if you haven't already heard it, one thing I want you to do, I want you to go back and listen to episode number 8. If you haven't listened to it, you might want to go do that first. Because in that episode, I shared some completely different ways to think about how you might set your rates, how to make sure that your rates make sense for what you do. You got to start there first, y'all, with healthy rates that accurately reflect the incredible value of the healing work that you do. You got to start there. But let's assume you've done that. Let's assume you're in a good place. Today, I want to talk to you about what to do when it's time to raise your rates. And you know why I want to talk about this right now? Because at the time I'm recording this, we are coming up on the end of September, which means we're about to enter the fourth quarter of the year, October, November, December. And my favorite way to handle it when I make a big change in my business like this, if I'm going to raise my rates or do anything else that is significant, I like to give clients lots of time to get used to the idea. So my favorite window of time is a 90-day period where I tell people this is coming. I'm going to be making this change. If it's something that I know they're going to need some time to get used to, I like to give people a 90-day window. So y'all, we are at the end of September, and it's a perfect time to make this decision and roll out some of these changes if this is right for you. So that's why I want to talk about this today. But before I do any of that, let's talk about the scary stuff. Why we don't do this, what we're all afraid of, why all of you choke when when I even say, have you ever thought about raising your rates? Because I kind of think you should do that. I know what happens because I see it on your faces. I hear it in your voices. There's probably a lot of things we're afraid of, but there are two really big fears that more than anything else stop us from doing this. The first one is we're good people. We're kind people. We love our clients. And the last thing we want to do is upset them. So we often are afraid that our clients will get mad at us, that they'll get mad, or that they won't be able to afford it, or that they'll just all quit and our practice will die and we'll end up broke and, on the streets. Whether we say it out loud, that's kind of right in the back of our head. Oh my gosh, I can't raise my rates. I'll lose everybody and that'll be the end of me. That's a very common fear, and it's a very understandable fear. But you know what the bigger fear is that I know a lot of you have? That is that when you raise your rates, and sometimes you might just need to go up a little bit, sometimes you might need to go up a lot, depending upon how out of alignment you might be. But our biggest fear is that people will see us as greedy and that they'll think all we care about is the money and not about the work at all. And it's terrible to have someone think that, right? It feels really, really bad. That's actually, I think, one of our biggest fears, if not the biggest fear, that my colleagues will think I'm greedy, that my clients will think I'm greedy, that the world will see me as this horrible person who just cares about the money. But y'all, you and I both know it really isn't about the money at all. It never has been. You didn't go into this work because you cared about the money. It is about the work. It is about healing. It is about helping other people in a real way. It always has been. The money is a reflection of the value of that work. The money is a symbol. The money is a metaphor. The money is energy. And it's really important that that energy is in alignment with the energy of the good that you do. So let's talk about why you need to face the reality that there are times when you got to raise your rates, because this too is part of running a business, you all. Let's talk about why. At the risk of stating the obvious, things go up. There is such a thing as inflation. And I know at the time I'm recording this, that's actually a word that's on everyone's lips. But even when, the economy is humming along nicely and there's not a whole lot of drama going on, prices just naturally go up over time. That's just the way the world works. Your cost for office supplies, Wi-Fi access, website hosting, malpractice insurance, even the utilities for your office, whether you are virtual and working out of a spare bedroom or you're in person, that's going to go up too over time, right? That's just common sense. And your clients know that. Everybody knows that. Rates go up because things go up. But that's not the only thing that matters. Here's what matters. When you undercharge, your clients know it. And those who are your ideal clients, who adore you as much as you adore them, a lot of them are going to be bothered by that, y'all. They may be grateful for it, but they will be bothered by it. And when your clients are uncomfortable because they know they're not paying a fair rate, whether you all talk about it or not, at that point, your rates are then a therapeutic issue. That suddenly becomes a factor in your relationship with your clients, like it or not. And so as part of having a healthy relationship with your clients is having a healthy relationship about the payment, the rates, the money exchange that happens between you guys. So that's exactly what happened in the story that I mentioned at the start of this episode. I told you that I knew someone who tripled their rates. That someone was was my very first coaching client ever when I officially began coaching for real. She was a financial coach. She wasn't a therapist. She wasn't a healer in the traditional sense of the word, but she was a financial expert who knew how often women have conflicted relationships with money. And she was determined to help women, especially women later in life, have a really solid, healthy financial foundation. So she worked with widows, women who were going through a divorce, women who had, disabilities or health issues, women who had financial concerns, and helped them make sure that they, had the right insurance in place, had a will in place, that they weren't paying too much for certain important services, etc. Those kinds of things. Really important nuts and bolts thing that made life better for her clients. But she also undercharged. And I know that's kind of crazy. The irony is not lost on me, and it wasn't lost on her either. Her rates were crazy low because just like you, she loved her clients. And because she knew their finances, she was even more protective of them and careful not to ask for too much. Well, when we started working together and I began to coach her, I was able to help her see that she really needed a better strategy overall for how she priced her services, really across the board, not just in what she charged, but how she charged for things. And so we did some work, and it took a little while to figure it out because she had some sort of unique challenges just in her business that we had to work through, but we figured it out. And eventually she came up with a couple of options for her clients for how she could serve them that provided top quality service, but tripled her rates. That's brave, isn't it? In fact, if you heard the episode where I interviewed Janet Feld, a musician, songwriter, singer-songwriter, guitar teacher, if you go back and listen to that episode, Janet did the same thing. She talked about in the middle of that episode how she reached a point where she had to triple her rates. If your rates are that low, sometimes that's what you got to do, which takes tremendous courage. Well, that happened with my friend and client, the financial coach, and she did that. And it was a big deal. And the very first thing that happened when she rolled out the new rates and the new packages was one of her favorite clients sent her an email and said, "Thank you. It's about time." And do you know why? Because that client, who was a woman of integrity and honor, really appreciated and needed the help she was getting from this coach. But she also knew good and well that the prices were too low. So as a result, she always had this kind of gnawing feeling that she was sort of taking advantage of her coach. So when she had a question or a concern or something she really needed to talk to the coach about regarding her finances, she didn't. She didn't want to bother her. She didn't want to email her. She didn't want to call her. She didn't want to text her. She didn't want to do anything outside of the bare minimum that their contract allowed because she didn't want to risk taking further advantage of someone she cared about, her coach. So when her coach raised her rates to a much more equitable and appropriate rate, her client was free because now she could reach out when she needed a little extra help and feel fine about it because she knew her coach was getting paid appropriately and well, and she felt good about that. See how that works? That really did happen. That not only happened then, I have seen that happen in other situations since then. So I want to share that story with you because I want you to know not only will your clients not feel bad about you having healthier rates, a lot of time they will appreciate it at multiple levels. But before I get into kind of the nuts and bolts about how to do this, let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is insurance. Depending upon what kind of work you do, this may not be a factor for you. If you're an energy healer, there's a really good chance insurance isn't a part of your practice anyway. I think there are some plans out there that cover acupuncture. So perhaps if you're an acupuncturist, perhaps you do. But if you're an energy healer, a Reiki master, a yoga teacher, a midwife, a coach, there's a really good chance that insurance doesn't even apply to you. So everything else I'm going to say today, you need to hear. But if you're a psychotherapist or a physical therapist or a chiropractor or someone for whom insurance very likely is a standard part of your practice, you might think this doesn't apply to you, right? Because after all, you don't ever get raises from the insurance company, do you? Hardly ever. It almost kind of doesn't matter what you charge, really, because they're going to pay you the contracted rate you agreed to, no matter what you might put on those claims. If you say you charge $100 an hour or $200 an hour, a session, whatever, and your contract says you get paid $60, that's what you're going to get paid. It doesn't really matter what you put on there. But I want to tell you that kind of thinking is a mistake, actually. And thinking that way can keep you trapped in what I'm thinking of as insurance poverty for a very long time. That thought that you kind of have no choice except to take whatever they pay, that's just not true. There are actually two things you can do that will automatically raise your income, at least a little, maybe a lot, and even if you have a practice that is heavily dependent upon insurance. The first one is you can negotiate your reimbursement rates with insurance companies. Now, they don't tell you this. It's kind of a secret. Not everybody knows this, and it doesn't always work. But sometimes you can call the company that you have concerns with and you can say, we've got to change this. I've got to get paid more or I'm not going to be able to stay on your panel. This is especially effective if you work with a population that that they have trouble serving, like kids on the spectrum, high conflict families, maybe some of the folks who are suffering from some of the more serious types of mental illness. If it's a population, a type of problem, a group that they have trouble finding providers to serve, they're really going to be willing to work with you. But sometimes it's not even that. If you're in a rural area where there just aren't a lot of providers, they will be more willing to work with you. So don't be afraid to just ask for a higher rate. Sometimes that will do it. But if that doesn't work, another way you can raise your income, y'all, to be real, is to just eliminate one or two of those contracts. Just cancel a couple of them. If you're on 10 insurance panels, pick one or two to cut out. If you're on 4, pick one to cut out. Just doing that alone will automatically increase your income, even if you don't do anything else I'm going to tell you today, because they'll want to see you anyway. That was actually one of the first sort of shocks that I had when I began to move away from an insurance-based business. In the beginning, I was on every panel that there was. And the first time I cut a major insurance company out of my portfolio, which I did for lots of reasons that I'll talk about another day. But the first time I did that and I started getting clients, calls from people who said, do you take XYZ insurance? I'd be like, no, I'm so sorry, I don't. And they would think about it and they would go, well, shoot. And then they would say, well, that's okay. I want to see you anyway. Really? So you can negotiate your rates or you can eliminate a contract or two, and that automatically will increase your income at least a little bit and maybe a lot. So I just want to kind of get that out of the way in case you're thinking because you take insurance, none of this applies to you. It still does. But let's say even if you do take insurance, you still have a couple of clients who are self-pay or potential clients who would like to be a self-pay. Well, how do you know when it's time to raise your rates to begin with? How do you even know when to do this? Well, first of all, if it's been 2 or 3 years since you've done it, it's time. It's time. There are some business coaches who will tell you should do this once a year. I can't quite bring myself to do that. But a small raise every year is actually easier to absorb than a bigger raise every 3 or 4 years. So if it's been a while, that's one way you know it's time. If you are undercharging based on all the things I shared with you back in episode 8, when you take into account the value of what you actually bring to the table, if you're undercharging, then yeah, it's time to bring your rates in alignment with who you really are and the value of what you do. And guys, if you're full, it's time. If you're full, if you've got more clients than you can shake a stick at, it's time. All right? So, are you with me? I hope you are. So I'm going to give you 3 main strategies, 3 primary strategies, all of which I have used to raise rates. I'm going to add a bonus strategy that people don't often talk about or think about. And then I'm going to give you a little tool that's going to help make this a little bit easier for you, a template that I'm going to share that I think you'll like. All right, strategy number 1. The first one is what I'm going to call a communal increase. A communal increase. And that is where you kind of bite the bullet, make the decision, make the announcement, and you raise the rates across your community all at one time. That means all of your clients' rate increase goes into effect for everybody at the same time. Now, you can set this out a ways, and I encourage you to do so. 30 days out, 60 days out, my favorite, 90 days out. But bottom line, however, whenever you do it, I've seen people do it 6 months out. I don't think that's a good idea. There are too many things that can go wrong in those 6 months, like you lose your nerve. But let's say you're doing it 90 days out. You make an announcement, you tell everybody rates are going to go up in 3 months. Everybody at the same time, communal increase. The pros of this, the benefit of this, the good part about doing this is that by far, this is the cleanest, the simplest, and the easiest one to manage. It really is a matter of one announcement to your existing clients and then just changing your forms for new clients coming in. That's really kind of all there is to it. It is by far the easiest one to do, a communal increase across the board. The negative, the con, I'm going to talk about pros and cons for all of these. The negative, the downside to a communal increase across your community of clients is it's going to make you the most uncomfortable. You'll do the biggest amount of squirming with this one. It took me years to get up the nerve to do it this way. Now, this is how I do it now, and it's how I've done it for a long time. But in the beginning, it took me literally years to get the nerve to do that. So strategy number 1 is a communal increase. Strategy number 2 is what I call a tiered increase. And that is where you can create a 2-tiered system. Your existing clients stay where they are, but starting immediately with new clients coming in, you just start to implement the new rate. So you're at 125 and you're ready to go to 150, or you're at 150 and you're ready to go to 175. You keep your current clients at whatever they are at, but the new clients come in at the new rate. Easy peasy. In this case, change happens by attrition over time. As older clients fade away, wrap up, move on, slowly but surely, your new clients or your existing clients gradually become the new rate. The benefit of doing it this way is that you can avoid having that difficult conversation with your current clients. It kind of gets you off the hook with them. They don't even have to necessarily know that your rates are going up. That is kind of nice. And in the beginning, that's kind of how I did it. Actually, more often than not, that's how I did it. The downside to this, and I want you to think about this, is that if you do this more than once, there's a really good chance that you can and will end up with various clients at various levels, and that it will be a royal pain to keep up with. And I'm going to tell you this because I've seen this happen. If you've got clients, y'all, that come to see you for a long time, I mean, I've been going to my energy healer for years. If you've got a client like that and they're still at a rate that you were charging 5 years ago, 10 years ago, there's going to come a time when you start to resent those old rates, especially once you see how easy it is to bring in the higher rates and what it feels like to be paid better. So I'm not a huge fan of this, but if it's your first time raising rates and you just can't hardly stand to think about it any other way, okay, do it this way. Do a tiered increase. Old clients stay where they are, new clients come in at the new system, at least for now. The third strategy I want to share is what I call a delayed increase. And essentially, this is where it's kind of like a modification of the 2-tiered system. You allow your current clients to stay where they are. They have basically grandfathered status, but only for a limited time. Your old clients get grandfathered in at the lower rates, but only for a specific time. And you don't say anything to new clients. New clients come in at the new rates. So to your existing clients, you might say something like, hey guys, need to let you know I'm making some changes to my business. And starting on January the 1st, my rates are going to be going up. But because I love you and because we've been working together for a while and because I want to honor the work that we've been doing, I'm going to let you guys have a little treat, a little special status. I'm going to give you grandfathered status for an extra month or 3 months, 6 months, etc. So you have a little extra time at the old rates before the rates go into effect for you. But you need to know when we reach that date, I will have to bring you up to the new rates. Okay. So I just want you to know that, but you get some extra time because I want to make sure you have time to get ready for it and that it feels good to you. All right. So I just want to share that with you. That's a delayed increase. New clients, new rates, old clients, old rates for now, but with a very specific cutoff date for when they change to. Now, this is the bonus idea I wanted to share with you. It's a variation on that idea, and it's one of my favorite ways to do this. Start new clients at the new rate immediately, but for your existing clients, give them the option of buying future sessions in advance at the current rates. So, for example, if you're charging $100 a visit and you want to bump it up to $125, tell them that you're not offering this to anyone but them. This is current clients. But essentially what you might say is something like, hey guys, I want to let you know in a few months, or in this case, you might even say a shorter period of time, like in a month or 6 weeks, something like that. Hey guys, in 6 weeks, I wanted to let you know my rate is going to be going from $100 a session up to $125 a session. I haven't raised rates in a couple of years. I'm sure you will understand why it's necessary to do that from time to time, and I appreciate your understanding. However, I did want to offer you guys, my current clients, a little extra bonus if you'd like. If you'd like to pay for visits in advance, I have packages of, let's say, 4 visits or 8 visits or 12 visits. I have packages that you can buy in advance now at the current rate. So you actually can opt in and sort of save some money even when the new rates go up. Happy to talk to you about that. If you want to know more, let me know. And then what they do is they buy a bundle of packages, a bundle of sessions at the current rate. You get money paid up front. They are saving money, especially if people who know they're going to be working with you. They have no intention of going anywhere. They'll love this. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, thank you. That would be great. Thank you. They may buy 3 months worth of sessions or 6 months worth at the old rate. Great. Nothing wrong with that at all. And when that time runs out, they are at the new rate like everybody else, but they still got a little extra little bonus. See how that works? They're going to be happy, y'all, because they've kind of gotten a discount in a way. So they're going to be happy. You're going to be happy because you got paid ahead of time, which is delightful. But I do want to give you one tip, and that is if you do it this way, make these packages non-refundable and give them a time limit for when they have to use them. What I like to do is give people a year. So if you buy a bundle of 6 visits, 12 visits, 25 visits, however many it is in whatever package, I give people a full year to use those, a calendar year from the date they buy the package. And if they don't use them up in that amount of time, they lose them. You will appreciate that. Trust me, later on, you will appreciate that. And they will too, because there's definition to it, there's structure to it, which serves everybody. So that's the variation on the delayed increase. So we've talked about what, 3 different ideas. The first one is a communal increase where you raise the rates across the board for your entire community. That's by far the easiest, the cleanest, the simplest. The second idea, but it is most uncomfortable. The second one was a tiered increase where new clients come in at the new rate, old clients stay at the old rate. We talked about the pros and cons of that. The third idea was a delayed increase. New clients come in now at the new rate, old clients stay at the old rate for a period of time. Either they are grandfathered in for a certain amount of time, or they are given the option of buying ahead at the current rates. There you go. I know the question that a lot of you have as you're hearing this. Yeah, but Wendy, but what about my clients who I know good and well can't afford that? There's no way they can afford that. What am I going to do about those? And this applies, by the way, whether you are raising a self-pay rate or whether you are making the decision I talked about in the beginning about, like, say, cutting one of your insurance contracts. What do I do about those folks, Wendy? Well, here's what you do with those folks. If you follow my recommendation and give them 90 days notice, you'll have plenty of time to take care of them in a couple of different ways. First of all, you got time to wrap up. If the work is going well and they're in a relatively good place, you've got time to just finish the work and celebrate their graduation. If they're not ready to wrap up They really need to continue the service, but they can't or won't stay with you for whatever reason. You've got plenty of time to manage a referral, and not just refer, not just give them a couple of names, but to do what I think of as a high touch handoff, which is how I like to handle it in these situations. If someone, for whatever reason, thinks they cannot stay with me after I have made an increase like this, not only will I find the right person to refer them to, but I'm going to do whatever I can to make that switch as easy as possible. Whether that means doing a joint session with a new provider, providing records, doing consult calls, letting them go see the new person, then come back to see me one more time, whatever I need to do to make that change feel better, I'm going to do that, a high-touch handoff. If you've got that much time, you also have time to put together those packages that I've mentioned that actually might help them change their mind. They might choose to opt in after all. And you know what? If none of that works, you also have time to decide on how you want to handle, like what I think of as give back clients. So these are clients that, like, your standing slots that may be for a lower discounted rate or a sliding scale. I think it's fine to have a few of those. I think it's important for you to decide how many of those kind of slots you want to have. And you might decide, some of these clients might land in those slots, and that's fine too. So think about it. This is why you probably won't lose any clients. I've never lost a client because I raised my rates, ever. And I've done it several times. I've never really lost a client, even when I made the move from insurance to self-pay, because of these things. We had time to wrap up. We had time to handle a nice referral. We had time to come up with packages that gave them a more palatable way to pay. And when necessary, sometimes I made the decision to give them a discounted slot. That's fine. That's fine. If you handle it this way, you're not going to lose people. You're not. I'm telling you, you're not. I've used every one of these ways of doing things, and I've done it successfully. I have also seen it with my clients. I already told you about the financial coach and what happened with her. I also worked with a therapist who specialized in couples work. She was moving across the country from the eastern seaboard to the west and was moving all of her clients from in-person to online. This is pre-pandemic, when people were not used to that yet. Not only did she move them online and leave the area, but she also raised her rates, and her caseload went up. It went up because they didn't want to lose touch with her, and they were willing to do whatever they had to do to stay with her because she was that good and the relationship was strong. So I hope you see how this can work to your benefit and still serve your clients. I do want to give you one word of caution before I bring this to a close, and that is be careful. Be careful, because many of you will be tempted to avoid the discomfort of raising your rates. You will be tempted to avoid the discomfort of standing in your value by offering quick discounts or payment plans, or saying to someone, you know what, it's okay. You don't have to pay that. It's okay. Well, I'll do it different with you. Be careful about that. That's how you get yourself into trouble. I'm not saying don't ever do that, as I have already talked about. I'm just saying that if you do offer payment plans or discounts or packages, whatever, be thoughtful and deliberate about it, not reactive. Do it from a place of intention, not from a place of guilt or obligation. That doesn't help anybody. I want you to decide in advance how you're going to handle those situations so that you've made the decision. You won't let your heart drives you from an ethical and values point of view, but you're not reacting in the moment to emotion. I just want to say that because I've seen people who will have literally a full caseload and they'll have people on 7 or 8 different pricing points because they were so unwilling to deal with the discomfort of having this conversation with people. All right. So to make this easy for you, I got a little gift for you. I'm going to share with you a template that is the very letter that I send my clients when I need to notify them of a rate increase. This is one that I wrote for my own people. I've used it many times. I'm going to share that template with you. You, of course, can and should modify it and adapt it to fit your voice and your particular circumstances, but it will help give you some of the language that I think will make life easier for you. You can get that by going to my website, www.wendypittsreeves.com/increase. wendypittsreeves.com/increase. And you'll get an option to do a download. You will have to confirm that download with an email, like always. But once you confirm that, you will get access to a template that gives you exactly the language you need that will make this feel better to you. All right. And easy. So easy. So guys, as I come to a close, I just want to say you really can do this, and your clients won't mind anywhere near as much as you think they do. They understand. Most of them won't say a thing. Some of them will praise you and say, good for you. It's about time. And even if you do lose one or two clients, and I don't think you will, but even if you do, you'll still feel better because you'll know that you are treating yourself with respect. You are running your business in a smart way, and everybody's going to benefit from that. Now, remember, if you need some help with this, go to my website, wendypittsreeves.com, click on Start Here, and check out the Quick Start Consult. That might be a way I can help you with this. Or wendypittsreeves.com/increase if you just want to get a copy of that template that I mentioned a moment ago. Thank you, everybody. I know this is a lot, but there's a lot of ways to think about this, and I wanted to give this to you so you have the nuts and bolts of exactly how to do it. And now you do. So go do it. That's what I got for you today. Have a great week, everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye now.